gingerbread houses. So this, this is an activity that our family has done for decades and will continue doing for decades. So let me just start with the recipe. This is a very old recipe. Cement icing is basically egg whites, water, cream of tartar, and then you add powdered sugar. And when I made this batch, I did make it with just 2 egg whites. Never before in my life have I made such a small batch. I usually increase it by 4 times. They say you can build 6 to 8 houses from one batch. But when you look at our houses, you'll see that that's not the case. There's no way. So I usually 4 times the recipe to do, I'd say between 6 and 10 houses.
Kathleen, could you take a moment to explain what the cement is for?
Oh, yes. So the cement is for holding the houses together. It's the white stuff. And one of the things that we've always done, because we started this with when our children were very small, I mean, like, 5 years old, we used stale candy. We never used fresh candy. And because we said, well, it's stale, you can't eat it. And they didn't. So we just, and also the candy, if you buy it fresh every year, you're going to end up spending an incredible amount of money on candy. So if you buy it when it's 75% off after whatever holiday, then, and you just keep it for the year. So, I mean, I buy after, St. Patrick's Day or Easter or any holiday, I'm there looking for their candy on sale. So the cement icing is to hold the houses together and to keep the candy on. So let me just go through making one batch of this icing. So like I said, I usually quadruple the recipe. So when I made it this time, I realized my mixer was really too big. If I had had a handheld mixer, I would have used it, but I don't. So, and I didn't want to switch it all into the little bullet, my magic bullet, to see if that would work. But the 32-ounce powdered sugar is 4 cups. And that's helpful to know if you're quadrupling something, because you don't want to have to actually measure out each cup. And the cream of tartar, I don't use it with anything else. So I actually keep it in a plastic bag with the recipe in a special little drawer. So here I am separating the egg. You only use the egg whites. And so I just separated the eggs. And you said, you want to cook some scrambled eggs or make an omelet or something shortly after you do one of these recipes, especially if you're quadrupling the recipe. So you want to use up those egg yolks. And as you can see, I have this big mixer, and that's all, the beater doesn't actually get down that far. So once I added the cream of tartar, and again, it was for 1/8 of a teaspoon. And my teaspoons only go down to 1/4. So I just did half of it. And then you add 2 tablespoons of water and you make it foamy. And then you, you add in the powdered sugar and you just beat it until it gets thick. And almost like ribbons, when you take your spatula and dip it in, it would come up and fall out like a thick ribbon. So there are two ways to dispense it. And many of our pictures, especially when the kids were little, I would use these oval dishes. And it's funny, I don't have this set of dishes anymore, but I get the oval bowls because they're the perfect shape for dipping a graham cracker. The other is to use the disposable decorating bags. And I don't know if any of the bakers in the club are familiar with them. But they're plastic and you don't even need the tip. I'll show you that a little bit later. Here we go. So I fold down the edges because it gets messy. And I just put the icing in the little triangle. And one of the keys so as the kids have gotten older, we do this instead of dipping the edges so much. And I think the icing goes further. So you don't want to trim it yet, but what you do with your hand is you actually trap the bag where you've twisted it between your thumb and your second finger, forefinger, and that's where you keep it closed. Otherwise, as you apply pressure, the icing is going to try to escape up the top, and you, of course, don't want that. So before you're ready to do your decorating, you can trim, well, to store it, I put a twisty tie on it to keep it airtight. And like they say use it right away, but I've refrigerated them for up to a couple of days. Because if you're going to have a party, it's nice to get this done ahead of time instead of waiting till the people are, knocking on your door. And for us, since no one eats the houses, I'm not really concerned about having it in the refrigerator for 2 days. And you do want to bring it up to room temperature, the icing, before you start using it. And then when you go to cut the tip to use it, you want to cut the littlest you can possibly cut and then keep getting it a little bit bigger till it flows out at the rate that you're comfortable with. And so I have some examples. This is a picture of Jack and his brother. When the kids were really small, we would make the houses for them. And then they'd be all dry and ready for the kids to put the candy on. And so they were sometimes building the sides. It can be nice to use the oval bowls to dip them. And Jack and his brother actually had a really fun time, and they were very creative with their architecture. So this, I put all this together, and then I realized I had all these kids' faces. And while they were 15 years ago, I probably shouldn't be showing their faces without their permission. So I went through and cut off all their faces, so we just see the gingerbread houses. When I first started doing the parties, I used to have everything in little dishes. All the different candies had their own dishes, and it was just on the table. And I learned to use a plastic disposable tablecloth and just toss the candy on the table. And the kids were fine with that. They could, search through and reach whatever they needed. And for these boys, these houses, you'll see the kids were older by this time, and they'd make their own houses. We did not make them for them for all that many years. But it was fun. This guy wanted a bigger, most kids just would do like an 8-inch plate because we thought you needed to decorate the plate as well, and landscape things. But this guy wanted a bigger tray. So here were some that the boys did. And they were in middle school, and this group of guys had done it enough where they realized that the goal was to have the last house standing. We used to wrap up these houses in pretty clear cellophane bags and put a bow on top, and they'd take them home. And the guys decided it was more fun to destroy them and to see who could have the last house standing. And so that meant the architecture kind of went down on the important list, and durability rose. As you can see, this house collapsed along the way and was basically a pile of candy, solid. And so he was thinking his house was going to last a lot longer than, say, this one. And then girls started coming to the parties with our son's parties. And so we are in Texas. So these are BB guns and arrows. Here's the bow. And this is like a BB gun pistol. And so we've got the little gingerbread houses set out here, along with some pumpkins left over from Halloween and Thanksgiving. And the point was, of course, they had to have all the protection and stuff, which they did. And they had such a good time trying to destroy the gingerbread houses. And as you can see, the little BBs went in and made holes, and they would try. So this guy won because his house actually was still kind of standing. And so that made him very happy. So here's just another view sort of what the table would look like, and like the size of the plates. One tip I would give, I've learned that when you buy the graham crackers, which I didn't include anywhere in here, you want, unfortunately, even though they're not eaten, I end up buying the Honeycrisp graham cracker, and they are more expensive than the store brands. But I will go and I'll go and open the boxes. Like I'll go out to my car and open the boxes. And so many times the graham crackers are broken. And you need to have the whole sheet of them to be able to build your houses. And so I check them while I'm in the grocery store parking lot, because there's no point getting home and not having the whole graham crackers. So little lesson learned. So these were taken from last Christmas. And so these were done by our kids and their spouses and Jack and I, actually. So they're just so creative and so much fun to just make things colorful and happy, and do things with your hands that, you might not normally do. And so I want everybody to look at this. This was our brand new daughter-in-law made this to honor Jack. And does anybody know what this is? If you do, unmute yourself and say, if he's talked about some of his interests. Does anybody know what this is?
You go tent camping?
Tent camping. And what is this part over here?
I don't know, river?
No, it's brown.
His raised garden bed?
No, it's the Appalachian Trail that Jack's been hiking. section hiking. And this was actually a fire which you can't have on the trail. That's throws you off a little bit. And I think these were some frozen pants from Jack's trip in the cold. And she was nice enough to put me with Jack, but I didn't go on that trip. But I just thought, you know, boy, if Jack hadn't loved her before that, she's part of the family for sure. Anyway, it's like I had never thought of making a tent or a camping scene before, and I just loved that. So, you know, it's fun to do the landscaping. You have a pool or a little pond. And it's just fun to see what people's creativity is. And so this is our real estate, our son who sells real estate. That was his house, which I find pretty funny, actually, because it just looks like a glob. And this one, can you see that it's an angel? I just think, again, that was so creative. And of course, she had to nibble the wings to get them to curve. And the graham crackers are the only things that are not stale. So, but anyway, I just thought that was beautiful and kind of gives a little bit more of an idea of what you can actually do. They don't have to be houses. So several years ago, we went down to San Antonio for Christmas, and we were in this lovely like boutique hotel right on the Riverwalk. And this was a display in their lobby, and it's of the Alamo, and it is a gingerbread house. And it was actually made out of gingerbread, not graham crackers. But, you know, it was spectacular. It really was. And it was big. Jack, do you remember? I mean, like a couple feet wide.
I think it was just slightly smaller than the actual Alamo.
Anyway, excuse me, it was beautiful. So here's back to the recipe. If anybody has any questions, I am happy to answer them. And I don't know, the recipe will be posted on the blog if you want. It's very reliable. And I really can't encourage everybody enough to do this with your grandkids or even adult kids. It's just fun for everybody.
Sandra, do you want to ask your question to Kathleen?
No, I have something else to say. Just before we were on a different Zoom with our kids, and one of my sons is in a gingerbread contest competition right now. He's an engineer, so this is an engineering company. I wish I could see what they're going to be doing, but he is doing a complex of their buildings in the industrial park. So 3 8-story buildings and walkways in between. So he had it all done out of gingerbread, and now he has like hundreds of windows to do. I don't know what else is going to be there, the parking, but the entire thing was gingerbread. So it's very
Oh, what fun!
that you should be doing this.
I'd love to see
Yes.
pictures of those if he has some when he's finished.
Yeah, he usually will post it when he's done.
Yeah, share those sometime. That sounds
Yeah,
great.
I think it was a great idea, and he's got the name of the company written in gingerbread on the
Wow.
plate there. Yeah.
Sandra,
Sandra, be sure to have them for the 27th, I think, is when
Yeah.
we're back again.
Yeah,
Sandra,
but
tell
yeah,
me
my question, Jack, it was why it seems so sad that you don't eat them. I mean, that's the best part, the yummy part.
Well, Sandra,
You
two
know-
things. One quick advice on those windows that I use. Take a 1/4-inch drill bit and make round windows, like portholes, and you can do that really quickly, and it's a lot easier than square windows. But let Kathleen answer the why you don't eat them.
Well, I think the tradition of not eating them started when I had like a room full of 4-year-old little boys making gingerbread houses, and then the other room of 8-year-old little girls making gingerbread houses. And there was no way I wanted them to be eating sugar while I had that many little kids at home. So we just kind of kept that going. So.
And it's a lot of fun to use a BB gun on one of those things too, by the way. So.
And bows and arrows. I mean, it really, the girls adopted that strategy. They didn't want to take them home wrapped up in a pretty bag. They wanted to destroy them. So anyway, we've had whole adult families come over and just do the process. And they were kids in a candy store. I mean, they just thoroughly loved it. So I can't encourage it enough. And